Jeff Morris has for us, and then anything else you want to bring up. Now, if we discuss it here, and what we send to advisory, and if you feel strongly about any of it, then I think you want to be there. If you don't feel strongly about it, it's just informational. But I would say, if you have a chance to be there and you're not going to, and you don't come there, and you then don't like what we put forward, I'm sorry. You know, this is the time to do it, because it is somewhat time sensitive with the meet site for the state meet. It will not be at St. Olaf. That much I can tell you right now for cross country. That train left the station, so that's gone. And then with the 3-class system, very time sensitive. If at all, we can make any changes there. But we do need to hear suggestions on that a little bit. If there's any tweaking we can do, that's what's going to talk about. And Tom Sharp is on advisory. He's going to be there. I'm going to facilitate, but Tom will be who I defer to. And then what we want input that I'm going to send back to Jeff Morris. Jeff can't be here today. He was going to be, but there was a thing with coaching basketball, his kids' teams, and he had to fill in at the last minute. And he thought 6 hours in the car for maybe a 30-minute meeting probably wasn't worth it. We can probably take care of it. Anyway, you decide. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to introduce Karl Ermisch here from Lakeville North. And it was my idea to bring Karl in. I thought we needed something different, and with teams that were on the rise. And I can tell you with their cross-country teams over the last few years, Karl's been the head coach for 7 years, and then the distance coach for track. Lakeville North has made a pretty big presence with their distance and mid-distance crew. And I told him yesterday, with what our team we brought in, we thought we had a chance to podium this year in cross country. I didn't think we were going to take Wayzata, but the other team I thought we had no chance at was Lakeville North. As it turned out, we fell to 5th, but even if we had run very, very well, we weren't going to touch Lakeville North, and they were 3rd, and so we found out that way. But I just thought this is an area where this school, and 2 schools in the district, Lakeville North, Lakeville South, and I just thought that what Karl's been doing the last several years, and the crew he has in coming up in track, was worth hearing what his plan was. So with that, I am going to have Karl take it away.
Thanks, Ross. I retired from my federal government job about 8 years ago, and I had taken off the last day of my federal 30-year career to come to this clinic. So I'm a longtime fan, been attending every year. In fact, back in the 80s when I coached at Richfield, yeah, you can believe it, right? Gray hair, 80s. But I'm not sure it was still the state, the coaches put it on, but there were clinics. And I've been a fan ever since. I think they're great. It really sets a tone, even though it doesn't seem like it today with 4 degrees and snow and that thing for the season, but I think it's really a nice kickoff. And I've also been the beneficiary of some really unselfish advice offered up by Scott Christensen. I took level 1 in track from Scott Christensen, and when he put his name and number up there, he wasn't just kidding. You know, I've emailed him and I said, and asked him, like, this guy's not, you know, this kid doesn't seem to be recovering quick enough. And he'll say, well, yeah, because he can't do it physiologically in this amount of time. So I was a PHYA teacher. Okay, we had exercise physiology, but not to the level of Scott, who I believe has a doctorate in comparative physiology. So he is a great resource, and I thank him. Another one he was coaching at Burnsville when I was a kid running track was Phil Lundeen, another one who's really great at sharing every bit of information that you ask him about. One quick story on that. My kids say I have too many stories, so I'll try to limit it. But my son went to St. Olaf, and he played baseball, and the athletic director at St. Olaf was also the baseball coach, and I was talking to him one day, and I said, how in the world did you get Phil Lundeen to come to St. Olaf? And he said, I don't know, he applied. And I go, this guy doesn't even know what he has. You know? unbelievable. But, you know, needless to say, Phil was a great coach at the U and a great coach at St. Olaf. As far as track and field, I ran at Richfield High School when, how many were at the dinner last night? Bud Bjorner was the coach at Richfield. All right, I got a quick story about Bud. All right, I called, now he predated Arnold, but he still had kind of that accent like Arnold does. And to me, he's the original Arnold. I'm talking about Schwarzenegger. Because back in the day, he was built like Arnold. Okay? He created an amazing weight room at Richfield High School. And we had, as high school kids, the Vikings coming to Richfield to lift weights because our facility was better than what the Vikings provided. So we're lifting weights with guys like Ed Marinero and Bobby Lee and Alan Page and Oscar Reed and Bob Lertzema. Okay, his name's mean to anybody? Okay, Bob Lertzema was kind of like everybody's dad, you know, and you'd say, oh, I'm a little tired today. You go, that's a bad attitude, shape up. We go, Jesus. So he kind of got on everybody that way, and Bud was training at the time for an arm wrestling championship, and if he won the next round, he was going to be on ABC Wild World Sports. You guys remember that, where the ski jumper goes down and crashes? And so he was trimmed down to a weight where, you know, like wrestlers do, where he didn't have to go with the huge guys. He was big, but not the huge guys. And Lertzema was like, oh, so somebody's an arm wrestler. Oh, who would be an arm wrestler here? And out of character, my high school football coach was there too, and he said, well, Bud will arm wrestle you. And of course, Lertzema knew this all along. So all of a sudden, Lertzema says, well, we don't have an official here. He's getting a little worried about it. And my football coach says, I'll be the official. I know how to do that. So Lertzema was kind of couldn't back out there, right? So Bud and Lertzema sit down and start arm wrestling. Boom, Lertzema's arm breaks. So he, you know, we figure, okay, we're rid of him bugging us in the weight room for a while. He came back with a cast, okay? And when he finally got the cast off, he played defensive line for years, so his elbows were kind of like this. He walked around like, he could straighten this arm. So we always just said, Bud did you a favor. When I graduated, or I was an invited walk-on at the U when Coach Roy Grick was there. See if I do this right. Okay. This is the one I was talking to you about, Ross. This was called a family pairs race that was run by the Aquatennial. And it was a 2-mile race where you'd pick 2 family members and you'd run together, and obviously you're limited by the slowest of the 2. And 11 or 12-year-old me was the slowest of the 2, so I always dreaded that time of year because my dad had kind of like dragged me. But we won, and you can see Coach Grick awarding the ridiculously oversized trophy for the magnitude of the event. And then that's Jim Klobuchar, you know, Amy's dad. So, kind of a fun one there. The majority of my coaching philosophy came from my dad because actually back in the 60s, he joined the Minnesota Distance Running Association. And that was shortly after he was playing flag football at age 32 and thought he was going to die of a heart attack. So he started running. Then he joined that, and then it just kind of grew and grew and grew. But there wasn't all this, there was no internet. Obviously, there's no scientific books. There were some ridiculously written books. I have one that I share with the kids. I didn't get a bang out of it. But what it said in there is, any stocky boy should be able to have success in the 2-mile. What? Any stocky boy. And that was about it for advice on the 2-mile. So we were basically, you know, he had this uncanny ability to create workouts, even in, you know, late 60s, that are very similar to our tempo runs today, our intervals, our repetitions. And I don't know where he got the feel for it, because he had quit running in high school because his grandma figured that he was going to die then, you only had so many heartbeats in your lifetime, and don't use them up running. So she offered him $1 to quit track. He grabbed it and went and bought some cigarettes. So, I mean, that, you know, he didn't have a great background anywhere. So I was really amazed at how well he did coaching me, how well, how we were really our own guinea pigs, and we just kind of tried some. It isn't gonna work, just can that one, try something else. I also have to give Bud credit because my dad was basically my distance coach in high school. He wasn't on staff, Bud let him do it. It's something I don't think I'd let a dad do nowadays, but Bud let my dad do that, so. Cross-country runners on our teams now get a kick out of the fact that I never ran cross-country. I played football, okay? But I did run, obviously, the distance events and track, you know, the 4x4 up through the 3,200, or what used to be the 2 mile. Because you don't see many, you know, strong safeties running distance, right? So they always had a little issue with that, but you know, it's like I ran enough road races, I get it, right? I trained hard enough in track at distance events, I get it. Ironically, when I had teams at Richfield after graduating, I again got to give those guys credit because they offered me the job of coaching the distance runners when I was still in college. And teams I had back then, cross country, finished 3rd and 6th, which I find kind of ironic because that's what Lakeville North has finished the last 2 years. And I think my kids are pretty well convinced I can only coach 3rd and 6th place teams. So I got to fool them, mix it up a little bit here. I had a 30-year career, and like I already mentioned, in the federal government, which don't do it, it's a mistake. Young runners, don't do it, or young coaches, don't do it, stay in coaching. Okay? Stay there. Much more rewarding, you're gonna be happier in the long run. I coached my kids during that time. My youngest kid is now older than my assistant coach. Happened, right? They went to Richfield High School, as did my wife, but you know, even though I coached them in all basketball and all those things, I knew I'd always someday get back to coaching high school cross country and track and field. So what I also had a lot of fun with is the fact that the runners that I had at Richfield in the early 80s will still call up and we'll go to lunch. I even had one call up this year for a New Year's Eve get together. So, you know, the friendships that you can keep over the years for us gray-haired guys, it's amazing. It's just so much fun. My wife does say, though, when I'm leaving, I'm going to go have lunch with the boys. She goes, you can't call them boys. They're pushing 60 years old. So I got to get over that. Now I'm going to get into my little presentation here, of which I hope I can add a little to the great speakers we've already had. I've camped out in the distance room both days. Both Addie and Don have been excellent, and I really appreciate what they had to say. What I've kind of learned is that, or reinforced, I should say, is that a lot of us do it the same way. It's just getting the buy-in from the kids and convincing them that despite the fact we look like old fossils, in my case, we still might know what we're doing. But my comments today, when I come more from a cross-country perspective, because I'm the head coach in cross-country, and the distance, like Ross said, and track, boys side. But I'll also say we, because I'm not in this alone by any means. I have two great assistants. Chad Claybaugh is here today. He's a youngster that I was telling you about. He's younger. He would be my youngest kid, all right? And then Diane Stakowitz, who you've probably heard of Bryce. He was the state runner-up one in the 800 to Ross's runner. And he's a good miler. I mean, he was a 4:13 last year as a junior, so he's a good. So his mom helps. I usually don't like parents helping. she's great. She's really great. So I owe equal credit to any success Lakeville North has had to those two. I'll leave that up a little. As we all know, as educators and coaches, everything starts with a positive attitude and good communication. Communication is bottom line, both between the coaches and the athletes. But we as coaches, one athletic director that I worked for said, if you're not having fun with, if your coaches aren't having fun, what's the point? And I agree. So the coaches I have, we have a blast, all right? We communicate well. We go to dinner. We discuss things other than running. We get along really well. The kids see that. They understand that. They see that. The communication thing also sets a tone for the captains who, need to be that liaison between you sometimes and the rest of the team. It also really has worked well for us to, and I've seen this being a little redundant, I didn't plan to be that way, but I've seen it in other presentations, that we kind of make a big deal out about becoming a captain. I've heard it both ways from really good coaches. Some just say, you're senior, you're a captain. Okay, have fun. We make them go through an application process and an interview process. And what I find a little sad is that some of the kids, they do the application, but then when we interview them, they'll say, this is the first interview I've ever gone through, which I think is really important for kids to go through interviews. I go, wait a minute, you've had jobs all along, you've told me that. Yeah, but usually I just fill out the application and they go, when can you start? So I feel that process is important to their development, both as taking it serious to become a captain on their team, but also for down the road. We also, and I'm stealing this from Chad, he doesn't care. But he made a good point. He says, your real resume, it's not this application, your real resume is how you've acted the previous couple of years. Sometimes I've heard one of the speakers say they have junior captains. I don't want to get roped into I want to get, this kid isn't cutting it, and then they're not a senior captain. So basically what we've been able to do, because our team is pretty large, is limit the applications to next year's seniors. And that's worked pretty well. I don't know if you all have that opportunity with the size squad. We usually have, in cross country, 40-some kids, divided up pretty evenly. Yes?
I want to ask a question about that, because that means that you would then talk with your coaching staff, I'm guessing, and say, well, who do you think is the best candidate? You make a decision as a coach, a coaching staff, as to who gets to be the captain.
Thank you for bringing that up. There's two things we do. One, we review I look at the applications and put them in the order I think, write it down, then I mix them all up and hand them to Chad. So put them in the order you think is the best application on down. Then I record it, and then I mix them all up and give it to Diane. Stackwitz does the same thing. Then I score it. Okay. And then we do the interview, and we do the same thing. We score those interviews based on how we feel the kids did. And we have it in writing, and I keep those, and we scores so that if there's ever, there never has been, believe it or not, but if there's any comeback why, I have that paperwork there to show how they were scored independently. And we weight each of these scores based on a school prescribed method of how you weigh the interview versus the application versus, and then we didn't do it this year, so I can't say we're 100% on it. But generally what I've done is I've had the kids vote, and they do take it serious. They take it very serious. And I've narrowed it down from a whole bunch down to about 8 questions. Does this person put team before themselves? Those kind of questions. The one that I find myself always going to, my eyes go right away to it, is, are you willing to follow this person as your leader? Okay. And what that has told me over the years, a kid that I figure is a shoo-in, they get all these really low scores on that. So I know the kids know something I don't know, right? They know something I don't know. So I just kind of, again, in fairness, it's weighted, it's filled out, it's scored, and then it's tallied, and then here's your top 2 scores. Or we've gone as high, last year we had 4, because we had such great candidates. I'm losing a great group of kids, man, really great group. But we had 4, they all did. That was too many. Even with 40-some kids, it was too many. We're going with 2 next year, because really there was only 2 good candidates. And so, does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, so, got more bullets up there than, okay, captain, team first. All right, so we are a team first, and everybody said that, and everybody, but we truly are. And the fact is that I a lot of times bring up 8th graders that, because I don't, if they express an interest, I usually let them come to me, all right? And they know, having been there 7 years, that I'm approachable on that if they really want to do it. And so they come to me, and if they're someone that I feel is going to fit in well, be able to handle the high school being around high school kids, and is really not going to gain a whole lot because of their talent level by running a junior high or middle school 1 mile and winning by 400 meters, then I go, sure. That certainly doesn't mean, and I'll get into that, that certainly doesn't mean they're going to train like a high schooler, but they get in the environment. It's fun. It's really worked well. My point being, guys like my top runners, Andrew, Casey, and Bryce, and they've been around, Matthew Hendricks, Nico, they've been around since 8th grade. So they know we're team first. Right? They just know it. Okay? So there's never any like, well, I don't really want to do that kind of. Coach writes it down, they do it. Now, there are some cases, and Ross and I were talking about this, with our really great kids that are also super runners. Sometimes they've earned the right to pick their event for, and I made the mistake last spring of letting Andrew choose the 3,200 and the 1,600. We did, he's a 48.08 split in the 4x4 also, and we did win state in that, but he's not a 3,200 meter runner, really, right? And to run this thing. So I gave him that choice, that's what he picked. I knew it was wrong at the time, I let him do it. I may be over that. I'm gonna be a little more, try to be a little more persuasive, and I think you're gonna have more success in this. Okay. Which was proven when he went to New Balance Nationals, ran 151 in the 800. So that's his event. I think that also, they've done a great job of setting the example of selflessness for our JV runners. Because we all know, I've got, every year you go, you got maybe 25% that are really varsity level, right? Based on, whatever your number is. I get 40-some kids and 10 to 12 are maybe varsity level, really pushing it. So the majority of my kids are JV, it's great, okay? But the captains and the seniors and the varsity does a great job of the selflessness, the team first approach that just resonates with them also. I gotta get off that one. I'm even tired of looking at myself. We show respect for each other. It goes both ways. Both ways. If I don't respect them, how can I expect it back? So we respect each other. We communicate well. We have a fun trip that is, for us, 3 days, 2 nights at Hayward, Wisconsin. On the way up, we stop at Willow River, where I just get a bang out of it. There's these high school kids, except for this little twerp, he's an 8th grader. But you can tell by that expression, he's pretty tough, right? play in those falls back there, and then I gotta go, come on, let's go, like they're little kids in the sandbox. You know, they just love it. So that's part of it. That's our roughing it in that nice Holiday Inn Express. That's our roughing it, right? I don't remember any camps like that in any sport I was in. But we stay at that for 2 nights. We point being, and I'll get a little bit into that when I show the workout placements that I'm supposed to be talking about. The Hayward trip selection it's based on economics. Kind of like Addie was referring to yesterday in Wayzata. Lakeville North is well-to-do. I can't afford to live there. My brother does. I live in Richfield. I'm only going to get one coach bus that holds 52 runners, right? So we're going to take 26 boys and 26 girls. They all know it ahead. They know it from year to year. So, you know, you better be running in the summer. You better be getting yourself prepared to get in that top 26. Well, there's one young man who he was basically lazy until kind of the light went on, like most kids. His mom didn't even really have the faith in him that I hope she had of making this trip, because I did get that email like, you should be taking everybody, blah, blah, blah. Well, what I remember and will always remember is he finished 26th, okay? And as he crossed the line, I got to say, he's projectile vomiting, laughing and going, Coach, I made it. You know, that's how big a deal it was to that kid. So, and also we have our summer running like most teams do, where we have 3 weeks, blackout week, 3 more weeks. And what I've really had fun with is so many of the past runners call up and go, Coach, can I help at the summer camp, okay, the summer run? So you're available to come, and some of them don't even know I pay them a little stipend, you know, it's hardly worth their time. But some of them, they don't even know, when I give them a check, they go, we get paid for that? Mm-hmm. So that really makes me happy that they want to continue that involvement. Okay, I gotta tell you about that. There were 2 of our kids were in medal class, and they presented the 3 coaches with those metal die cuts that they made in metal class. You know, those little things just are something that's so rewarding for being a coach. What I try to do is talk with every athlete every day, and you know, I got to really kind of make a plan when we got 40-some athletes to do that. Like, I'm going to catch these. These are the kids that always show up really early before we start practice. I can talk to them, and then here's the kids I can ride my bike with and talk to them. You know, and here are the kids that when we do our core and our ab workout, I can talk to them. But you know, sometimes it's as simple as something like, I know they have different interests, and not every one of them, their top priority is running. That's great. You know. So we talk about maybe the physics class, the old truck they're remodeling, even how the workout went for them that day, and inevitably they like kind of have this little smile, like, you know, he actually cares about me. So you know, that I think it's worth every second, minute I spend trying to do that each day. Rules and standards. I do use a contract. Like, did Addie say she used that? Most of you look familiar because I was in the same room. I saw one of the other coaches using a contract, and it's just straightforward. It's simple stuff. Point number 2, I make Saturday mandatory for varsity, voluntary for JV. The reason being, I used to make it voluntary, I made it mandatory for everybody, and just my personality would, if a kid didn't show up, I'd have to email or text, go, where were you? And that got to be like, And it was always, the varsity were always there anyway, and the kids that wanted to get better were there anyway. So it was like, why bother? I do point out to them though that if you will come to Saturday practices, you gain basically 2 additional weeks during the season. I won't go point by point because I hate it when people read bullets to me. But the one thing I want to say is that, you know, these kids have so many opportunities to get a hold of us now. I remember the days when, early days when at Ridgefield, I have to call each kid individually, and then they didn't have answering machines, so if it was busy or that nobody answered, I'd have to, okay, I gotta go back to them. Okay. Now you got face-to-face. That's my favorite. I know it's old-fashioned, but that's my favorite. Group me, email, text, phone, just let me know. I did put this one in just because it was at your Mounds View JV meeting, and I didn't know if this one young man was ever going to finish your course. So they have to demonstrate now that they can run 5K. I don't care how fast, just run 5K before you get that be entered in a race. Okay. I do give them an example of the 3 different types of training, but basically that's how we've broken it out. Last year, every year's different because you have different personnel, different kids. This year, I wanted to focus a little more on the varsity just because they're a pretty good group and kind of in the mix. So I focused on that. Chad had the emerging runners, which are those that are the real pushers that have a real chance to make a difference and maybe move up to the varsity. And Diane had the hardest job with the 25 plus JV runners that have such a wide span of ability, you know, all the way from I'm almost getting there to like, you know, almost a 30-minute 5K kid. So she has the hardest job, but she's so good with them. They know that she's there for them. She's supportive. That it just works out, you know, with us kind of pigeonholing our coaching that way. I do have both the athlete and a parent sign, and then they, if there is any issue, what I do is, there've been so few, but if there is, I just highlight the point, I scan it to them in an email, and I never hear from them again. Okay. I might even highlight their signature. Some of these things, I forget what they were using the word organic. Did anybody go that, the husband-wife culture yesterday? That was great. They did a really good job, and they used the word organic. And they said that their team kind of came upon this same thing we did of the word of the day. And, you know, cross-country runners a lot of times, they're just kind of the brainiac kids, so they keep kind of alternating, like now, word of the day today has to have at least 3 syllables and 4 vowels. So they have fun with that. It's been going on for years. I don't even know how it started. It's just been going on for years. But I encourage it. That's my point. I can't create something. I don't even know how it started, right? But I do encourage it because it's a good thing. It's something of extra interest to the kids. We have rules and standards, and the kids know that the same rules apply to number 1 as apply to number 40, whatever. And there's never going to be an issue on that. It's not like, oh, he's a little fast. I don't care if he's faster. You follow the rules. Your speed has nothing to do with the rules. Okay. I mentioned the contract. We also emphasize the fact of being a good citizen, which comes without saying to educators and coaches. But they need to be reminded that classmates are watching them, other teams are watching them, other coaches are watching them. The general population of the city's watching them. I tell them, you cannot cut across people's yards. That's disrespectful. And when we are sharing a path, I say share the path. They got it down now. They'd all just shift single file to the right. Because these are, you know, these people you're encountering, You gotta leave a good impression because they're the ones paying for this program, making it possible for you, right? So they are very good about it. They're good kids. They also know that we highly value their academic success. We had 4.17 GPA on the region, or the section team last year, and I thought, that's gonna be hard to break, and they got 4.27 this year. So they know that we feel that that is way more important than getting a state or placing at state, or that's your future. I mean, this other stuff is extra. Try hard, do well, but school's where it's at. And our kids, the majority of them, are involved in some kind of community service, which we encourage. Empathy is huge with me because we know we weren't all in the same line when talent was handed out, okay? Or the parents were, the parents you ended up with. So it's like, you need to understand that this person is trying as hard as they can. They're never gonna run as fast as you, but they're trying just as hard. Also, how many state champs do we have in each event? Okay. That's all that mattered. What would be the point? So we really push, we got a couple things that we really push, is that we expect maximum effort out of everyone regardless of their ability. We do have individual and team goals. Sometimes I go back and forth on that, but sometimes I'm just interested to see what they're thinking, what their expectations are for themselves. Are they realistic? And part of the realistic part comes in when I've got a decent runner that can run a 9:45 2-mile, but they say they're going to run a 9:30. Okay, maybe they're only junior, maybe they will this senior, but I want to talk to them so that when they run 9:45, they're not like bummed out I failed because I didn't run 9:30. So making those goals realistic and practical, helping them do so. We get together after every meet, and we do take every meet seriously. We make a big deal about it. We kind of keep the same courses so that they have comparisons from one year to the next. Obviously, weather can wreak havoc with that, but generally it's a chance in cross country to make comparisons, see how you've improved, if that's the case. And then we get together. And the reason for that is I don't want to point everything towards section and state, and then if we don't do well, it's like the season was a failure. Because it really wasn't, but you just didn't stop and enjoy every stage along the way. That's important to do. So we make a big deal out of every meet. And then the next day after the meet, we get together and we go through and we talk about the kids that met their goal. And what makes the coaches really happy is that the kids are always as happy and as loud and clapping as hard for the kid that made his 21-minute goal as they are for the kid that set the course record. Right? Yes?
How do you have them keep track of those?
I have them write them down, then I record them and keep it. So we get together, we write it down. I used to meet with them individually. Sometimes at Hayward and Down Period we'd meet, and I go back and forth on that, and we discuss it so that the example I just gave of your 9:45, that'd be great this year. You're not quite at a 9:30 yet, save that one. But what I do is they write them down, whether we discuss it with them, I record them, and then I can refer back to it. So after every meet, I just highlight the ones that met their goal, and then we celebrate it that way. Does that answer your question? The other thing, as far as the team goal, that's kind of weird because obviously our team goal is to make state and place. Our goal is to place in top 3. So, but JV, they would have a different goal, right? Because they're not going to be on that But what I got a really good feeling about is almost all the kids wrote down, I hope my teammates get their individual goal. Okay? You're a mom because you went. Right? So that made us happy. I have, believe it or not, even though I've been in the 2 pictures I've shown, I don't really have many of myself. The one I really like is it has my 90-year-old dad and then Coach Greg and Mr. Klobuchar. But this one, they wanted one for our bios, and I couldn't find one, so our team photographer sent this one. And what I liked about it was it shows the boot. And the boot is the trophy for the JV section meet, okay? It's just some goofy thing that was dreamt up even before my time. And then it's a traveling trophy, and if you win it, it doesn't show real well, but the teams that have won it are written down there, and then the year. And Lakeville North has won it the last 3 out of 4, I think. And there's more excitement all year long about defending the boot than just about anything else, to be honest with you. So, that stupid rubber boot means a lot to the kids. We want them to be resourceful because that, again, is going to make them confident and more self-reliant and a better adult. And the way we do that is we expect them to come to practice dressed appropriately. How do they know how to dress appropriately? Come on, you've got some time during the day, I'm not saying do it in class, but you got some time where you can pull up the weather and see that it's 30 degrees, so don't wear shorts. It's raining out, so wear a windbreaker, waterproof windbreakers. So we expect them, and they know. Don't dare ask coach for spikes the day of the meet. You were supposed to ask for those the day before. So you better, you're probably going to run without a couple missing spikes because you were supposed to be prepared the day of the meet. Sense of urgency, that's another one that just kind of evolved. Summer run, we're all in the parking lot. One of the team members pulls up late, gets out of the car and kind of starts sauntering over. I said, you need to have a sense of urgency. Well, little did I know that would be like, anytime anybody's kind of dogging it. Sense of urgency. So, those little things are kind of fun. We remind the kids, don't let things that you can't control affect you. It's really a losing battle. It's just a no-win situation. So, if it's raining out, sleeting, windy, embrace it. Who cares? Embrace it. Glad to be alive. Your competition is facing the same thing. How are they handling it? So your attitude is going to be what makes the most out of this situation. Control what you can, let go what you can't. Final note before I get into some workout positioning is that I'll preface it with saying I don't think it's certainly not a prerequisite or a requirement, but I know I'm a better coach after having been a parent. And the reason for that is I know how I wanted coaches to treat my kids, so I make sure that I'm aware of that and treat their kids with the same respect. Okay. Workout positioning and philosophy. I know it's the opposite of what Don said. Don is great. I mean, he's had, like Ross said, success at every level. There's more than one way to skin a cat, right? But we kind of go quality over quantity. I like things fast. Okay? But that means you can't run as many miles, right? I found that trying to write a workout from the last week, and that's the only way you can do it if you're going to attempt it from state meet backwards, always was a waste of time because after the first week I changed it all. So I'm really down to a week at a time. There's certainly different cycles, whatever works for you, 7, 10, 14, whatever. I've always just gone a week at a time. I send it out Sunday night to the kids so they know what to expect. And they know probably by Wednesday I've tweaked it and it's a little different. So I don't do it too far ahead. The example, I don't have it up there, but I'll write what I think. The whole point is I don't go by miles. I go by what I think they need, what I think we need to accomplish that week to be successful, okay? If I was going to, and some of the kids do it, well, the way I calculate it, Coach, it's 38 miles, okay? It's a number. Number is the same as any other number, right? But I kind of want to go 40 miles this week. Okay, you tell me where you want to put in those extra 2 miles, okay? And they're going to be junk, right? Because you're trying to hit 40 miles, forcing in 2 more miles that aren't going to help you accomplish what you want to do. There's just going to be wear and tear miles, right? So I don't care about summer, yeah. You know, we plan ahead. You should be to this many miles because it's all volume stuff. It's all aerobic. It's volume. You know, I maybe let them run each grade level run 10 more miles a week than they did the year before. But during the season and when I'm making workouts, no. I err on this side of undertraining. I know it. I know it. I always have. Same group of kids that are almost 60. My kids that are 60. They said, you didn't, I don't think you ran us hard enough. You're the individual state champion, the 3rd place. You weren't injured. How far did I run you again? I'm old man, I don't have a great. You only ran us 55 to 60 miles a week. See, I've learned. I don't run anybody that far anymore, you know. But they thought that was undertraining for the time. We didn't have any injuries this year. Nobody was saying, "Oh, I'm just beat. I don't like this anymore." Nobody was stale mentally or physically. And I did hear one of the other. We don't adhere to the no pain, no gain. That's silly. We discourage streaks, which to me means running consecutive days in a row forever, right? I had my first year there, 2016, had a senior who had a streak going, and his mom had been calling me during the day saying, "Duncan won't be there. He's just been throwing up. I don't know if he's even been able to get out of bed yet." He calls me. Well, he didn't call me because kids don't call. He sent me a text. "Do you think it's okay if I go run a mile?" "You're a really smart kid. What do you think?" "Oh, I'm not going to." But he had actually gone to the point of asking me because he had this stupid streak going. Right? So we don't like streaks. We don't let them streak. We take Sundays off. You need a day just to clear your mind, let your body recover, spend time with your family, do your homework, go to church, do whatever you do. Do whatever you do. Physical, mental break. Be flexible with the training. If you're not going to, and I did hear the other, if you're not going to accomplish what the workout is designed to accomplish because of the wind, because of the rain, because of the snow, move it to another day. Who cares? You're not going to get it done anyhow. You're just going to frustrate everybody and yourself. Move it to another day. We only do one workout in this cross country, one workout a week in the weeks that we have meets, because we feel that 5,000 meter race is so demanding that is the best workout you're ever going to get. Tell the kids the race is the best workout you're ever going to get. But you need to then recover from that, especially when it's a 5K. And I know that might sound light to some of you people, even though thinking on volume has changed since I started doing this back in the 80s. But we had no injuries. They know that another little catchphrase I'm going to say is, "Do you feel springy?" They know what I mean. Yeah, I feel springy. They'll come up, they think it's funny. They'll come up at practice. "I'm ready to go, Coach. I feel springy." Well, good. We're communicating that they feel recovered and they're ready to go. A couple examples of, okay, we do like to teach our kids to run in stride. I'm kidding. Do you see the accidental synchronization there? I love that picture. And I had to throw this one in because it makes me happy to see everybody that happy. So, that's one of my favorite pictures. Training. I'll start with cross country, week 2. I'm not going to go through it step by step and bore you to death. I just want to make the grade areas are the ones I wanted to mention real quick. I like to train kids in cross country, the workouts, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if Scott said this somewhere along the line, which would mean a lot to me, or if it just works. But I like our workouts are usually about 5,000 meters, distance of the race. And Chad is so good about going out there and laying out courses. We found this Summerlin Park where it has a 1,000 loop and then it has a hill similar to St. Olaf where you come up to the top and you have 70, 80 meters, whatever it is, to the finish there. So it's a great simulation. You say, well, okay, why are you doing that at 8:22 for state? We weren't being that presumptuous, but we do go run that early bird down there, like the first week of September. So it was a good workout put there for that race. Hayward, that's where we usually slot our trip as the second week, cross country. It just kind of happened that tempo ended up at 4.66 miles just because that's where it kind of was nice and flat and laid out and no traffic. And it kind of changed from tempo to like a road race, but I don't really care at that point of the year. It's a good time for me to, we don't have a race that weekend, let them go. So you can see what their times were. Andrew ran 5:14 per mile, 5:23. The only one that really ever listens to me on these kind of things is Bryce, who I asked guys, don't run over 26 minutes, so you can see he nailed it. That is that week. Then that's early season. You can see we bracketed by some longer runs. JV 5 miles, varsity 9. Saturday 8 to 10 miles. That's only going to be probably, like I said before, varsity that show up. Kind of in the middle of the week, we still 7 by 700 meter loop, 4,900 meters, almost 5K. We got a little loop there that's used as a middle school race in Lakeville. Has in that 700 meters a lot of the elements of a good cross-country course, and I give them their goal time. They're told if you're going to err in your pace from your prescribed time, then I want you to run these in, do it on the first one by going too slow, get a feel for it. Don't run it too fast and then screw up the whole workout. So they almost always do that, not by design. They're not lazy by any means. Like Don said, running's hard. Nobody's making you come out and do it. They want to be there. So, but the first one's usually the slowest of all. The reason I highlighted this one was because of Charlie. Even though he didn't drop off horrifically, I could tell coming in on that after the 6th one, he was fried. He was done. So I said, "You're done." So you got to be able to adjust. That's the point here. On Wednesday, when I planned that workout, it was just incredibly hot. I know if they were able to accomplish it, which I didn't think, we would have some heat-related problems. So forget it. The next day, I put this Thursday, boosted up. No matter how many times you look at these things, you always boost it up. Okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And Greg was on Friday. So usually I like to give them 2 days before a relatively big race, but we only had one there because we had to take this into consideration. It's more important to make sure we took that into consideration than giving them 2 days before a race. This begins kind of midweek. What I wanted to point out is now we're gonna get into the intervals and all agree that 400 is a great distance. Always has been, right, for workouts? And again, I tell my kids, there's no workout I'm ever gonna give you that no coach hasn't used a million times. Okay, so what it really is you being consistent and executing. You get this workout this week, and you gotta nail it. When you nail it, we're set to go. So I give them their goal. First set, Andrews is 71, second set 67, last set 63. They go on the threes, which means I keep the watch going. Every 3 minutes, line up, go.
Carl, could you, I don't think most people can read it, can you just tell us what the headings are for each day, just so we know?
Tell me this heading?
The headings for each day.
Okay, all right. I didn't want to bore people too much, but what I have here is Monday, we had 3 sets of 4x400, and on the threes means, like I just said, I keep the watch going. They start the next one every 3 minutes within that set, and then I give them 5 minutes in between sets, and then they're expected to come down. And then here's their actual time. So Andrew was supposed to run 71, ran 70, 67, 66, overachiever. Right? I know he's going to do it, so I fool him. I adjust it there, right? And then it's like, okay, work your way down and see what you have left. Okay? And run 58 on less than about 2 minutes recovery on this 12th one. So, and I haven't put the whole JV because they don't all do this. They can't do it. These guys can do it. So we may have a whole different workout for the JV that's certainly an interval workout, but modified to fit their ability in the running age. This would be, Tuesday would be 40 minutes of running with hips and core. That's what Don was saying about, 40 minutes sounds awful light, but if you spend 15 minutes going through hips and core and they're working hard and breathing hard, you can tell they're breathing. And they keep, okay, now push up, now plank, now move on. They're getting some endurance out of it. Easy day, which I hate that word. What else are you going to do the day before meet? A recovery day similar to this. And we did that here a little bit on Saturday with cut down, but I don't want a crazy cut down. So most of them, you can tell, they rolled out of bed 10 minutes before they drive up. So it's like, let's start slow. Start with let's get 9 miles in 60 minutes. Let's start with a 720 and cut it down to 6 flat, 10 minutes a pace, or 10 minutes a mile. I ride the bike with them. They got all their fancy watches and all that, and I got the old-fashioned stuff. But they get it done, So that's kind of that's our week 8. Now at the toward peaking. Let's see. This is so we've already run conference. We're got an open week before sections. I have a hill, 6-degree incline hill that they really like to fly on, and then just jog down there. So it's low volume, speed work, strength with the hill in there. Before and after, 50-minute dip and core, 40-minute dip and core. Then I've cut this down to 2 sets of 4 times 400. Reduce the rest to 2 minutes per rep. And you can see there, and then they're given their goals. I didn't put those there, but usually on this workout I say, let's start here, cut a second rep. So, and we finish with 63, 62, 60, 56, so it breaks. Those are freak times. Those are what your studs run. That's what studs run. It's not what the mere mortals run.
What do you base their goal time on for those?
Pardon?
What do you base their goal time on for those 4x4s?
What do I?
You said you've got goal times for their 400 reps?
Beforehand. A lot of times it's on previous workouts, and then I want to see improvements, so I either adjust their recovery, shorten that up, or pick it up a second. Real scientific, no, but I'm controlling one variable and making it harder or I'm taking one variable and making it harder. I'll show you one in track that I can answer your question better, because I do it more in track where I have, like, here's your PR in this event. Now I'm taking this percentage, I want you to do this. Cross country, it's harder, because I don't ever really know how fast these kids can run 5K. Because one week they run this, and next week they run that. Well, it's a course, obviously. I don't know what they, I could probably have them run a real level, flat one and see what they could do, but there's no time to really do that, right? Fit that in. So I do that more in track, trying to answer your question.
We got about a couple minutes. You can go as long as you want, but the session's gonna be done.
Okay, I don't have a whole, what I do have is I have 3 on track, okay? So I switched to track for, and what we do there, oh, well, I mentioned here, the second week, and this is the Gazer Fitness, okay? You don't know what fitness they're gonna come into, and I haven't been coaching them, and what I noticed is really weird, because from the beginning of track to stay me in cross country, I'm with them almost every day, right? Well, from state cross country meet until first day track, I don't see them, and come back and little Bobby's got a beard, and no, not quite that. I mean, they've changed a lot. So we do a time trial. I want to evaluate how much they matured over the winter, how much they trained over the winter. On this particular one, I wanted to see if our 2 best milers could run, comfortably through 3:12, which kind of sets them up for, if they maintain that at 4:16 miles, if they run the mile right, maybe 4:10. So they hit 3:11, 2:11. But then what I wanted to do is give them a pretty decent recovery and then bring back a shorter, like a 300, and see what they really had left. How fast did they recover? With the quality and 38, 40, that's 50 flat, 51-ish type, 52-ish. Hills, I love hills, even in track, because they're strength builder. Like probably Stillwater, Duluth. Lakeville's hard to run anywhere without hills. It's just a very hilly city. So, but we do have it nicely laid out. And when I say nicely, I think traffic-free out. As traffic-free as you can get. And the kids are always like, I know. They'll say, please be careful. Remember, roundabouts are not pedestrian friendly. Remember. Anyhow, it's nice, safe loop. We're 6.5 miles for maybe the 800, 1600 guys run a little quicker. And the 3,100 meters, I pick the 7.5, a little slower. A lot of science there, right? We have a dome. I always incorporate strides, and we only do 4 because the point of the strides is they're 100 meters long. I want coaches to analyze what's going on. Are you doing this thing like a locomotion? And you should be coming from the shoulder. Are you driving with your knee at all? What's going on here? And then we talk about it. I'll just say, good, go again. Or we talk about any problems that they may have with their form. So it's not high volume. Again, speed out of it, but it's a really feedback type little extra at the end that hits on another energy system. And then clear is just the lake we usually go to. I gotta be careful and pick up the last mile because they're only going 6.7 miles. Guys like Andrew run the last mile on their pickup in like 5 flat, but he's capable of that kind of thing. Mid-season, my favorite workout, 4x400, 4x200. Again, as far as what I'm supposed to point out is, or I've been asked to point out is workout placement. Okay, it's not so much what I'm doing because you all do it. It's the placement. I'm giving them the 2 days before Hamlin, where I found that the high school. I haven't coached college. I ran college. I didn't coach college, but I find that kids seem to perform so much better and feel so much better if I give them 2 days leading up to a big meet instead of just 1. So we had a number of qualifiers for Hamlin. That's the right word. Participants. have, or am I already over?
You're over a couple, but again, people, you go as long as you want, people can stay as long as they want.
Okay, here's the last one. We had, so that'd be an open week before section, so I got 3 quality workouts in with very low volume. It's that time of year, right? Low volume, high quality, a lot of rest in between. A lot of rest for these guys is 6 minutes. Because if I give them longer than that, they're going, can we go? Or they're talking and telling jokes. It's like, covered, let's go. So they don't, the longest I ever seen them in is 6 minutes. On this one, I just want to point out that we do have different workouts. We don't just one size fits all. These are my main, our 800, 1,600 kids. These are my 32 kids. So we have different workouts. Chad and I get together constantly to discuss what does it take to get them where we want them. This day we ended up with 3 different workouts, probably not uncommon, but just to show that this is what we felt they needed at that point. And finally on this Saturday where we had a chance, I put those in red just because it's probably the one and only time I really got mad at those guys this last year, because you can see what it says, 2 by 400, 800 meter pace. And there was a kid that ran 156 out the first meet, and it was some crappy, windy, rainy day, right? And now we're in May, and those 2 guys come through at 60, right? That's 800 meter pace. That's one of you guys 2 flat 800 meter runners, right? And then Chad and I can play good cop, bad cop, right? So they know I'm mad at them. So he can go over and say, what coach is trying to tell you is you just blew about 25% of that workout. You need to focus and execute, all right? Well, that worked to the extent that now all of a sudden they thought they're 148 half mile or 150 half mile. And then they came back. So they were kind of, I got under their skin a little and they performed. But it's got to be consistent and execute. So maybe a little too many on the workouts, but as I look at them, I see fun stuff that I can, fun to me anyway, that I can tell you about. So anything I can answer for your questions? Not, I'm around. Thank you for listening. I know it's been a long weekend. I know that by now you're ready to go win the big prize at the final drawing. And
Thank you, Karl.